Alright, what's up guys? Brand new deck profile today. We are playing Red Eyes, or we're showcasing Red Eyes. Yeah, this deck is pretty cool. New card that just came out. I think it changes the deck completely. It's a new card called Noctovision Dragon. It's a common in the newest set, Eternity Code. Honestly, this card is, it's like it's written to be played in Red Eyes. First of all, it's a level 7, but outside of that, I mean, this card might as well be called Red Eyes Noctovision Dragon. It has 3 amazing effects. Number 1, if this card's in your graveyard and your opponent activates a card that targets any of your face-down cards, you can banish this from the graveyard and then negate that effect and destroy it. And on top of that, your opponent cannot target any more face-down cards for the rest of the turn. Now, the reason that is so good in this deck, and that's just one of the 3 effects, the reason that's just so good in this, deck, is because you're playing a bunch of trap cards, like Red Eyes trap cards, like Fang with Chain, best Red Eyes trap card ever printed, possibly the best Red Eyes card. So all of those will always be protected against stuff, you know, like Lightning, not like Lightning Storm, but like Twin Twisters, stuff like that, which is extremely useful. That's just one of the effects that's kind of like a bonus effect. Number 2, if a Dark Dragon is special summoned, you can special summon this from your hand for free, which is pretty awesome because it can help fuel link plays. And then its last effect is that if this card is linked away, you can draw a card, which again is pretty cool. You make a Sir Yugioh and you draw 5 cards instead of 4. It's just it's insane. So this card is like, it might as well be a part of the Red Eyes archetype. It's just that good for the deck. But let's get to the deck profile, the full deck profile. This is a pretty purish Red Eyes deck profile that I put together. But we play 3 copies of Red Eyes Black Dragon. Play your favorite artworks, as I always say. These 3 happen to be the best. I should probably replace this with the Prismatic eventually, but I think these are probably as close as you'll get to the better artworks. We play 1 copy of Dark Magician. Yes, we are playing Dragoon. You know, I kind of just realized, you know what, none of us are actually playing anywhere, like any tournaments, no YCS, stuff like that. So I'm just playing a proxy Dragoon. By the time we get to play at our locals and play at YCSs and tournaments and regionals and all that stuff, you know, it'll probably be, it will most likely be after Dragoon comes out anyway. So I just made a handy dandy printout of Dragoon here, so that we could just use it in this deck profile. Most of us are playing online, and of course you can use this online. Next we play 2 copies of Red Eyes Alternative Dragon. This card's really good just for this deck particularly, because it's just, again, it's like an extra body on board. It helps you go into level 7 or rank 7 plays. It helps you just get dragons on board. It helps you put the Red Eyes into the graveyard. And on top of that, this card is actually really good for going second. It helps tear boards apart, because you can just summon this, crash it, then summon a big Red Eyes that's 4,800 from your graveyard, which is just insane. It's that effect. And then of course Dragoon breaks boards too. Then we play 1 copy of Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. This card, you know what it does. It's just intense. And then we play Red Eyes Wyvern. This card basically is one that's sort of in and out of the decks. You can replace this with Red Eyes Retro Dragon. You can replace this with, what's the other one? You can replace this with the Stone. You can replace this card with any of those. But it's just a level 4 lower Red Eyes. This one I'm just testing the most with right now, because if you don't normal summon during the turn that during your end phase and this card's in the graveyard, you can banish it and then special summon a Red Eyes monster from your graveyard, which comes up occasionally, especially if they get rid of Dragoon. Then we play 1 Gearfried, the Red Eyes Knight, just to go into Slash Dragon. But there's some cool combos if you need to destroy spawn trap cards with Fang with Chain. Next we play the absolute, and I do mean this, the absolute best card in the deck, which is Black Metal Dragon. There's 2 cards that are competing to be the best card in the deck, and it's got to be the Fang with Chain. The Fang with Chain, the Red Eyes, the Black Metal Dragon, and of course the guy who used to be on the ban list. What's his name? Metal Dragon. But basically, Darkness Metal Dragon. The 3 of them are just like competing. I don't know which one's the best. This one's probably the craziest, because it searches when it leaves the field not once per turn, and it doesn't miss timing. Like, that effect is crazy, because you could just keep looping this card back out, and you can search sometimes 3 or 4 times in 1 turn, which is just bananas. And then you can equip it. Like, this card is by far the best Red Eyes card. Like, without this, the others kind of are just okay, but this is probably the craziest card. Then we play 3 copies of Tenyi Spirit Vishuda. This card basically, if you control no effect monsters or no monsters at all, you can special summon this card free to the field, and you can banish this from the graveyard if you have a non-effect monster on your side of the field in order to bounce a card on your opponent's side of the field. And if you don't know, you can always have one. You just summon the Vishuda, and then you can turn it into a Monk of the Tenyi, and then bounce a card, basically. It's another kind of option for going second, although going first, it puts a lot of monsters on board, and, you know, level 7, stuff like that. Then we play 2 copies of Tenyi Spirit Adhara. This is just, like I said, another one of those cards, free monster on board, and it's a tuner. And it's a level 1 tuner, so you can go into Synchro 8s if you want to. And if this card, same situation, you could summon if you have no effect monsters or no monsters at all. And then you can banish this out of the graveyard if you control a non-effect monster, and then bring a worm monster from your banish pile back to your hand, which can be the Vishuda if you happen to have that. Or you can actually, if you have like an Adhara in graveyard and another banished Adhara, you can actually bring another Adhara. But it's like, you know, recursion. But mostly just play it for the free body and the tuner. Then we play 1 copy of Tempest Dragon of Dragon Ruler of Storms. This card basically is like a free summon again. 3 copies of Noctovision Dragon. Again, I have to play him with 3 just because this is kind of like, he's brand new, and whenever a card's brand new, I like to play it at 3. That way I really get to see it a lot. I get to see just how good it is for the deck. So I'm definitely going to play it at 3 for now. I don't know, maybe in the future I will cut it to 2 or 1. But as far as I can see, this card is actually like sick. Like, I can't believe how good it is. It's like it's built for Red Eyes, but it doesn't have Red Eyes in the name. Like, if it had Red Eyes in the name, it'd be over. Then we play 1 copy of Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. It's just you equip it using Union Carrier to any dark or dragon monster, which is essentially your entire main and extra deck. So extremely useful, and then your opponent can't special summon from the extra deck. Then we play 3 copies for the spells. 3 copies of Red Eye's Insight. Searches any Red Eye spell and sets up your graveyard. 2 copies of Red Eye's Fusion, just in case we draw one of them. 1 copy of Reasoning. Reasoning is an incredible card for this deck, because one of 2 things will happen. First of all, your opponent, no one ever calls 7. So no one ever calls 1, and no one ever calls 7. Everyone always calls 4. So you will either summon a level 1, which is going to be the Black Metal Dragon, or you're going to summon a level 7, which is going to be one of your like Red Eyes, or, you know, kind of fake Red Eyes. But basically it's always going to resolve, and then you're going to put a bunch of stuff in the graveyard and thin your deck, which is very useful in this deck. 1 copy of 1 for 1 lets you summon it's basically like an extra copy of Black Metal Dragon, which we need as many of as possible. 1 copy of Dragon's Ravine, you search it off of Romulus, and it again sets up your graveyard. 1 copy of Monster Reborn. This is just recursion in general, but it helps with plays involving Black Metal Dragon. That way you can loop it in as many times as possible. Then we play 3 copies of World Legacy Guardragon. It sucks that this card isn't searchable like it used to be, but this card is still like very good, especially with Black Metal Dragon, because you can basically turn 1 Black Metal Dragon to like a huge board just with this and a Black Metal Dragon, because you can keep summoning it from the graveyard and then keep summoning guard dragons. It's actually really good. Then we play 3 copies of Call by the Grave. Again, you need to protect yourself against various attacks of your opponent in terms of hand traps. So you have these, and then on top of that, like, let's say you don't use them and you end your turn, you can just set them and, you know, interrupt your opponent's plays. And then, of course, if you have this set and your opponent targets it, you can protect it with Noctovision Dragon. Then we play 1 Return the Red Eyes. This card is actually, again, this is another one of those cards. It's like been in and out of my deck. Like, I think about playing it, I think about not playing it. But yeah, this card is actually really good, because if you control a Red Eyes, you can summon a normal monster from your graveyard, and that can be either Red Eyes or Dark Magician. And then when this card is popped, you can summon a Red Eyes monster from your graveyard. So both effects are really good, and sometimes your opponent will target this face down card and you can activate it, and then you can summon a monster from your graveyard, a normal monster, and then when this actually goes and leaves the field and it resolves, you can then summon another monster. So sometimes your opponent targeting it is like the best case scenario. Play 1 Spirit, another sort of form of recursion. This is, you know, non-continuous, so it's very good for that reason. And then 3 copies of Red Eyes Fang with Chain. One of the greatest Red Eyes cards ever printed. At first, when this came out, I was so skeptical about it, but it really is an amazing card. It steals your opponent's monster. Sometimes Your opponent will normal summon something intending to do a full combo, and you just activate Fang with Chain, take their monster, and their turn ends right there. Really, really sick card. Now for the extra deck, like I said, we play one copy of Dragoon. Like I said, I am playing this because we're not playing Yu-Gi out there anyway. You might as well just load this up into whatever platform you use, Yugioh Dueling, Nexus Dueling Book, and just test this stuff. I mean, let's be real, this card's coming out anyway. None of us are actually playing anywhere, so just enjoy yourself with it while you can. And yeah, it's in terms of what it does, it's an amazing, it's beyond good. It's so good it might be used in other decks. It's that good. So basically, this card cannot be targeted, cannot be destroyed by card effects. That's number one. Number two, and also neither player can target it with card effects, so you actually cannot use it with Fang with Chain. Even though that is a Red Eyes card, you actually cannot target your own monster. It's a little frustrating. You just got to summon an extra Red Eyes it's not him, basically. On top of that, this card can destroy a monster based on the number of normal monsters you use for this fusion. You are always going to be using 2 normal monsters for this fusion, so you can destroy 2 monsters and then inflict damage to your opponent equal to the amount of their attack. So that'll help you with OTKing very much. And then on top of that, this card, if your opponent activates a spell trap or monster effect, you can discard a card and negate the activation, and then this card gains 1,000 attack. So it's just too much. Like, this card is so good, has so many good effects. It might be frustrating when people try to abuse it and use it outside of the archetype, because it really was meant for Red Eyes and Dark Magician players. It was never meant to go outside of that, but I guess we'll see how things transpire there. One Red Eye / Dragon. I see myself going less and less into him, but he's still very useful here and there. Just because he allows you to, play with the equips, play with the Fang with Chains, have targeting protection. He still has his uses. Then we've got one Flare Metal Dragon. This card is, again, like, I sometimes I teeter between 1 and 2 copies, but this card, number one, it gives you recursion, can't be destroyed by card effects, and on top of that, inflicts 500 to your opponent every single time that they activate a card, which is just crazy in combination with some of the other burn areas of Red Eyes. Sometimes you can summon like 2, sometimes even 3 of these, and every single time your opponent takes 1,500. But yeah, this card is very good. Play one copy of Borreload Savage Dragon. We can use the Tenyi monster just to basically have that tuner if we need to. One Elpie, one Pisty, one Monk of the Tenyi, one Link Karibo, one Union Carrier to attach the Dragon Buster, or you can actually attach the Black Metal Dragon if you wanted to. Then we play one Heradic Seal of Heavenly Spheres for the bounce, one Predaplan Verde Anaconda, one Romulus. Oh, Verde Anaconda, I just should mention, just in case you didn't know, you can actually send Red Eyes Fusion using this card to the graveyard, and then you can summon any of the Red Eyes Fusion monsters. But what makes this card so good is that it actually gets around the restriction of Red Eyes Fusion. So if you use Predaplan Verde Anaconda as your last effect, you can fusion summon. You can use Red Eyes Fusion during the same turn that you summon a bunch of other stuff, because it doesn't. Basically gets around the restriction. It allows you to summon a bunch of monsters and then make sure this is your last monster, and then special summon the Red Eyes Dragoon at the end, or the Slash Dragon. Romulus to Surge Dragon's Ravine, and then for some more links, we play IP Masquerina. This basically gives you a link play during your opponent's turn and makes it so your opponent can't respond. Not respond, but your opponent can't destroy your link monster you summon by card effect. Play one star Yugioh Scoldred, very necessary, gets you free draws, especially after all the guardragon plays, and then the Mech Knight Crusader Avermax, one of the best link monsters ever printed, possibly my favorite. But yeah, that's it. That is it for the deck. If you guys want, I can take it to the next level and create like a really, really heavy combo-based version. Like, I try to kind of create like a mid-range version of Red Eyes. But if you guys really, really want, I'll make it like probably like very aggressively combo-based, and possibly post that. But yeah, anyways, thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and have a terrific day, guys.